right, now we're going to go through our safety protocols, how we handle all the situations that may arise so we can protect our athletes. So we'll go through things like skin infections, concussions, health concerns, weight management, heat illness, and injury management. So let's talk concussions here for a minute. So with concussions, the first thing that we want to focus on is having our baseline testing and education. So when we do that concussion baseline testing, we do make sure that we educate our athletes during this time so the athletes understand the risks of not reporting concussions. We also educate parents during the parent meeting. That's why it's really important that we attend those, about the risk of concussions and what we do to handle those, so that there's not any questions. We also will follow the return to play that's outlined by the UHSAA as state mandated law. So we'll talk about that. That's actually on the next page. But we also encourage coaches to make smart decisions, educate athletes about correct practice techniques so that they are not putting themselves at risk for head trauma. And then if a concussion happens outside of the sport, we still need to know about it. So the biggest one we see is like car accidents. They still need to come and report to us that they have a concussion, and we will continue their treatment protocol. So the UHSAA concussion return to play is very specific. So in the state of Utah, somebody has to be a concussion specialist to be able to put an athlete through this return to play. Most doctors are not concussion specialized. They have to take training every 2 years and go through some requirements to be a concussion specialist. So often when a parent will take their kids to their pediatrician or something like that, that person is not a concussion specialist and is not clear, or is not someone that can clear an athlete through this return to play. Now, that doctor may clear them to come and go through return to play with us, and that is absolutely okay. In the state of Utah, we as athletic trainers are concussion specialists because we do deal with them on such a regular basis. So we can actually typically take an athlete through the entire care plan without needing to refer them out for outside help. Which is kind of nice. Saves the parents some money, and we can usually streamline it and get the athlete back quicker than if they were to see an outside healthcare provider. There are 6 steps to return to play, and we have to follow each one of these, and you have to wait 24 hours before you go into the next step. So like we would do, let's say that they went back and had a full day of school and no issues. On Tuesday, we wouldn't be till Wednesday that we'd do the increased heart rate and stuff. And then Thursday would be the beginning of simulation. And so it takes 5 days before they are able to be back to that return to play in competition. So we got to be really clear about that with the athletes, that they will miss competitions or games, meets, things like that, because of the specific protocol of how we return them. The other thing that we do is, because we have that baseline testing, we also make sure that their brain is back to normal function before we start to really get them in that physical conditioning to make sure their brain is safe to handle that exercise. All right. With wrestling, we deal with a lot of skin infections. These protocols are actually important for all sports. We follow them in all sports, but wrestling is the highest risk for them because of their skin-to-skin contact. But all skin infections need to be seen by an appropriate medical professional. That's going to be your doctor, your nurse practitioner, or your physician assistant. We really do try to get them in with a dermatologist if possible, because that is who's the most familiar with skin infections. And then all skin infections need to be documented by that medical professional on the green NFH form. We have a whole bunch outside the training room door in the sleeve holder that we have next to the door. So they're there so kids can grab them at any time. But we usually print them green, so they're easy to find. Once athlete goes to that medical provider and gets the form filled out, then they'll bring that form back to us as the athletic trainers. We will scan and upload it to their Register My Athlete. So we've got it in their medical files, and then we'll give the hard copy back to the athlete, and they will take that with them to every competition and show it to the athletic trainer who's ever doing the skin check. That athletic trainer still has the right to pull the athlete, even if the form is filled out, if it doesn't seem like their skin condition is safe for them to wrestle. On that green form, it's very specific about what treatments are needed. And it's very specific about what treatments needed, how long they're going to be out, etc. So we can't veer from those at all. All right, we often don't think about exertional heat illness in the winter because it's cold outside, but we do have a high risk of it because we do have hot gyms sometimes, and definitely hot wrestling rooms. And then we'll kind of talk a little bit more about some of the other issues that could be particularly high risk for wrestlers. So the big thing we need to know about exertional heat illness is it's 100% preventable with early recognition and treatment. So what we do for the treatment is we submerge them up to their neck in ice water until their core temperature reaches 102 degrees, and then we transport them to the hospital to get checked out. We definitely want to get them in the water. We found if we can decrease our body temperature rapidly, then we will have a 100% success rate. And we often think, oh, this is going to happen in big, overweight football players that are in pads and helmets, but it can happen to anyone at any time. We definitely worry about wrestling a lot because of their tactics to try to lose weight, but it can happen in basketball. Or even swimming where they're around water, because in the winter we tend not to drink as much because we don't get as thirsty, and so that puts us already in a dehydrated state. We do have cold tubs located inside and outside the school. In the winter, we actually close the outdoor ones and put them away for storage. So we do still have our 2 inside the training room that we are ready to use anytime. And then the biggest thing that we try to do is just educate. And that comes from you as coaches also, educating your kids to stay hydrated, to not cut weight unsafely, things like that. In wrestling, the biggest issue is when we try to lose weight incorrectly, then we are putting ourselves in a higher risk for heat illness. So if we focus on exercising in sweat clothes, reducing fluid intake, working out in hot environments, we will encourage a heat illness that can be deadly to an athlete and possibly end a season. And then if our athletes are interested in cutting or dropping weight, we want to make sure that they are very aware and understanding that they really should decrease their calorie intake by no more than 500 calories per day, and still keep their hydration level high as they're doing this, so that they don't put themselves at risk. But we're really finding there's a lot of research out there starting to come out that if an athlete is able to wrestle at the weight at a slightly higher rate, they are stronger and healthier over the course of the season, and injuries and illnesses are less susceptible to them because of their healthy diet. All right, other health concerns that we might deal with on a regular basis is if somebody has a pre-existing condition such as asthma, allergies, or diabetes, we just try to have their equipment on hand. So if they've got an inhaler, we want to have them leave it with the coaches or the athletic trainer so it's easily accessible. Same with diabetes materials or allergy like EpiPens, having those in a location where we'll know where to find them, so we can have easy access to them. We'll talk a little bit about taping athletes here in a few minutes, but if the athlete goes to outside healthcare with referrals, we do need documentation from that outside healthcare personnel, and then we will still put them through our return to play. Often healthcare professionals will return them to a daily activities level and not an athletic activities level. So we just will usually put them through some extra hopping, cutting, sports specific type motions, maybe a deep squat for wrestling, things like that. just to make sure that they are safe to return to that sport before we will let them have the full clearance. We will have an injury report that we have that we'll print and bring to you on a regular basis at the beginning of practices. And we'll also share with you the Google spreadsheet so you can access it at any time. We do recommend saving that on your phone, having a quick link to that so you can check at the beginning of every practice, make sure you know who is safe to participate and who is not. It will give very specific criteria of what they can and cannot do. So please do not let an athlete participate until you get the notice from us that they are clear to participate. That just is going to keep the liability off of you as a coach and make sure the athlete is healthy and safe. Now for taping, we are changing our taping policy a little bit this year because tape has increased exponentially over the last year, and so we can't provide as much taping as we have in the past. But our policy has always been that an athlete gets tape only if the athletic trainer deems that it's necessary, and a coach should not tape the athlete unless the athletic trainer has given clearance for that athlete to get taped, because that coach will take on that liability of taping an athlete and essentially clearing them to participate, which opens up a can of worms that could be really not good. If the host athletic trainer is available, they can tape, but they have to have permission from us as the athletic trainers. Again, that host athletic trainer doesn't have all the information on the medical history of that athlete, so it's not very ideal for them to tape an athlete and put them back in to participate. And then also, host athletic trainers are extremely busy, so we don't want to burden them with taping our athletes. So please try to have your athletes get taped from us ahead of time, or to wear their braces. All right, here's our basketball taping policy that has changed. So the region policy is that athletes will have note or prior authorization from the home athletic trainer before they can get taped. So if somebody comes to our school and says, hey, can you tape my athlete? I will always call that athletic trainer and make sure that they are truly okay to be taped before doing so. It's just a common courtesy. Again, that liability is an issue. Okay. Here's what we are changing a little bit. So if an athlete wants to get taped for a game day, typically we've in the past just said anyone that's on varsity, as long as they've worn their braces all week, can do it. But I know coaches are going away from braces, which blows my mind, but that's a totally different soapbox. So if an athlete wants to get taped for a game day, the athlete needs to come in and do strengthening exercises 3 times a week in the training room to get taped. So if there's Tuesday and Friday games, that means Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, they need to come in and do rehab before or after practice. This has changed for a few reasons. Like I said, prices of tape has more than doubled, which is hard on a high school budget. Taping is a privilege and should be earned by protecting their ankles with strengthening exercises. And bracing is truly better than taping because tape loosens over time and a brace can be tightened as needed. So we definitely recommend bracing. They're familiar with it if they're wearing them throughout the week. So we definitely recommend that. That is all for preventative care. If an athlete has an injury, we will for sure take care of it and tape it and do whatever we need to for that injury. So just realize that the preventative was just for the policy that we had in the past. If they are a swimmer that needs tape, the state does have a policy that athletes can only have tape, like KT tape or a similar brand, with a medical note. If the athlete is coming to see us for treatment and we're taping it, we will happily write a clearance note. But if they're going to like a physical therapist or something like that, they do need to get a note from that person to be able to wear that tape while they're swimming. So that's just something to pay attention to.